Hello and welcome back. I am Emily Jean if you're new here, and today we are doing another book review. I am going to review To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. I wanted to love this book. I really wanted to love this book, and I didn't. So if you want to hear all the things, grab your coffee, grab your tea, and let's get cozy. Okay, so I don't have the book to show you. It has a beautiful, stunning cover. I'll put a picture of it here. It just drew me right in. This was actually from one of the times I had my librarians choose my TBR. I'll link that video in the description box if you haven't seen it yet. But one of my librarians brought this down and she said, you might enjoy this. And I was drawn into the cover. It's this girl drifting in space, this vibrant blue, all these stars. Well, you just saw it. And it's set in space, which was one of my most favorite sci-fi settings. So I just thought I was going to love it. It's written by Christopher Paolini, who is the author of the Aragon series, which I found out he wrote when he was like 16, I think. Is that true? Wow. It's a long book, 880 pages. It was the longest book that I read in 2021. I read a little bit on audio because I thought that might help me process it a little bit more when it started getting long and I started wanting to DNF it a lot. I switched to audio, but then ultimately I switched back to physical copy, and that's how I read the majority of it. I started it on October 27th, 2021. And I finished it on December 16th. So it took 51 days to read, which is really long for me. And of course, I read other books in between then, picked it up, put it back down. But I did ultimately finish it because I kept on hoping that there would be a big payoff, that it would be worth the length, that it would be worth the time investment. And ultimately, I found out, for me, that it was not. So I'll give you a little bit more of a spoiler-free synopsis, and then we'll jump into kind of spoiler commentary, and I'll let you know when that comes up. So this does have a 3.79 on GoodReads. It has about 34,865 ratings as of right now. The main character is Kira Navarez. She is a xenobiologist, so she travels to different planets and figures out ancient alien tech, kind of preps the planets for terraforming, and that's about all we know about her and all we ever know. I mean, okay, we get a little bit of backstory about her, but her name is Kira, and she's a xenobiologist. The main kind of conflict in the story is that she's on this planet, she's preparing it for terraforming, and then she runs into a piece of alien tech, and she not only comes across the alien tech, but it becomes attached to her. And so the whole story is about her dealing with this relationship with the alien technology, how it kind of merges with herself, how she comes to terms with it, and in the meantime they're fighting off this alien race that's come to kind of destroy humanity, I guess. Humans are spread all over space. They are on some planets. There are in space station kind of settings too. And that's the plot. So they're trying to fight off this alien race, and we've got Kira, who's kind of the main character of the story with this xeno suit thing coming into. So kind of spoiler-free feelings. As you can see from the title of this video, it took forever to read. I think To Sleep in a Sea of Stars is going to want to put you to sleep. It's just too long-winded for me. The writing style, I mean, there are some really, really beautiful passages. The parts early on in the beginning, maybe the first 200 pages, there are some parts in italics that are so beautiful. Very poetic. But then it keeps going, and there are so many times where a scene could be described in a couple of sentences and it goes on for a chapter, and I was just kind of waiting for the chapter to be over to get to the next piece. And I think that's about as much as I can say spoiler free wise. Oh, CAWPILE. Let me tell you what my CAWPILE is. So characters, I gave a 6. They were okay, but we didn't really get a lot of character development. Even at the end, like we got a little bit of backstory, but I didn't feel super connected or attached to any of the characters. There is a ship mind named Gregorovich, and I really love like sentient AI, sentient robots, technology that comes alive. Like I love those types of stories and characters. Gregorovich was a little different because he was actually a human first and then transitioned into this thing called a ship mind, and so that was really interesting, but even him felt kind of flat, and I thought there was so much potential in that concept and that idea, and it just fell a little bit flat for me. So characters, I gave a 6, like okay, you know, some good, some bad. Atmosphere, I gave an 8 because I love space settings. No matter if it's a good story, bad story, put me in space and I am super happy to be there. So atmosphere, I gave an 8. Writing, a 6. Plot, a 6. Intrigue, a 6. Like some days I would have even said like a 3. Like get me out of this book, please. Logic, a 7. Enjoyment, a 6. So overall, that rounded out to 6.43, which translates to a 3-star book, which I think makes sense. Like it's a solid read. It's a solid book. It probably took so long to write and create this world, the world building. It was an okay read. I personally do not think it was worth the time investment for me. So let's go into the spoiler part. If you're leaving now, give me a like, give me a comment. Let me know if you do end up reading it, what your thoughts were. And if you're staying for the reader chat portion, hello. Okay, so this is one of the scenes that like, what the heck? When Kira is like, the Xeno suit combines with the mass, whatever it is, like I don't even remember all the names, but when when her suit combines with like the mass of minds or the mass of the nightmares, there's like this whole chapter where we descend into madness with her, and it was really poetic and really beautiful, but it was also like, is this necessary? Like what is even happening here? So that scene, like it was enjoyable that we descend into madness for a bit, but maybe like a couple pages, not like the whole chapter. Maybe some of you guys might enjoy that, but I personally didn't like it. I definitely felt like the story was weak in the area of pacing, very poetic writing, but overdone and not to my taste. A scene that could have taken 2 sentences took a whole chapter. I mean, we descend into madness a bit, but it never really drew me in. I kept waiting for it to be over, which is not a good sign when I'm reading a book. The story definitely would have been better for me if it were shorter or a movie. I don't often say that. I often love like being in the world, but I think I really would have enjoyed this as a movie. I think it would be a great, stellar movie with the right casting, with the right animation team. I think it could be really cool to see the suit in action. I would have liked that. The length of the book just didn't do it for me. And I love long books. I'm not afraid of a long book, especially when it sucks you into the world and you fall in love with the characters. But this felt long with no purpose. So especially, I feel like nothing truly happens or progresses by the end. Space is still being attacked by the aliens. Kira's still attached to the Xeno. By page 240, I was already ready to DNF it, and then you've got 600 more pages after that. I was just hoping that for that amount of investment, there'd be a big payoff at the end, like a life-shattering, world-changing payoff, and there just wasn't. I mean, she created that like cool little space station that was a safe haven for humans and jellies, and it was neat, but it just wasn't the payout that I was looking for. I think I would have enjoyed the story more if it wrapped up with something like if Kira was able to separate from the Xeno, or she learned like some incredible wisdom from the Xeno, or the Xeno like transformed into like a long lost alien creature. There was so much potential for something so cool to happen. It just didn't happen. And that just reminded me, like, we never really found out about those original aliens who created that tech. Like, I wish they had come back at the end. That would have been really cool. There was just no big payoff for me. She goes off into space, still attached to Xeno, not really connected to anybody, and there's still nightmares out there. But it's not the first book in a series, I don't think, anyways. I personally needed a lot more from an 880-page book that's supposed to be a space opera. Also, can we just talk about the jellies? The jellies? What kind of name is the jellies? Like, I get that they're like a gelatinous sort of like able to shift and change their bodies into different forms, but why do they have to be called the jellies? They're supposed to be like this intimidating alien race, and the jellies just really threw me off. It felt like a juvenile name for something that was so intricate and interesting. And then again, I was just kind of disappointed by the character development. I feel like Gregorovich definitely enjoyed the younger boy, but see, I can't even remember all their names, which is a sign to me that I wasn't that invested in them. Okay, so let's stop being mean for a second and go over to the pros. The cover. I mean, the cover was stunning, and I think it's definitely drawing a lot of people to this book. The sentient AI, I really liked the take on Gregorovich. I definitely think that could have been developed more, but that's definitely unique. I haven't heard or seen that before. The space setting, huge pro, and that's about it. That's about it for me with this story. I wanted to mention a couple of GoodReads that I thought were worth mentioning. If you know the channel and Books with Emily Fox, she said, "First contact with aliens is one of my favorite premises, but the book felt too long and the pace couldn't be sustained." Yes, very succinct, well said. And then Stephanie L. on 2019, this must have been like before it was published or before it was available, she made a comment like, "But the real question is, will there be space dragons?" And I say, oh man, Stephanie, I really wish there had been space dragons. That would have been so cool, so much more enjoyable. So I don't know. I guess I would recommend this book for you if you love long-winded writings, if you love stories that don't go anywhere, like if you're okay with it not wrapping up in a big way and just kind of spending your time there, you might enjoy it. If you like that lyrical writing but you don't need your plot wrapped up at the end, if you want to ache with loneliness, I mean, there's deep loneliness in the book, and I have to wonder if Paolini was experiencing loneliness when he was writing this, and it like translated through this, or if that is what he was trying to capture. But there's loneliness in space. There's loneliness in the way Kira ends the book and is not really connected to anybody. There's loneliness in Gregorovich's experience. There just seems to be loneliness woven through this book, and sometimes a book can do that really well. I just read When We Believe in Mermaids. I'm going to do a review on that. And that grabbed my heart and didn't let go. And that had a lot of loneliness, a lot of grief, a lot of trauma. But this just kind of felt, I left it feeling lonely. Or I left it feeling dissatisfied. But maybe that was what was important to Paolini. And I never read Eragon or any of his other work, so I don't know if this is typically his writing style or not. But all in all, it just didn't do it for me. I am glad I gave it a try, because I always would have wondered with that cover. It was inevitable that I was going to give it a try at some point. So I'm glad I gave it a try. I think I'm glad I didn't DNF it, because I always would have been curious if there was a payoff at the end. So I'm glad I read it. 3 stars. That's it. Okay, if you read this, if you stayed to the end, let me know your thoughts on To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Thank you so much for hanging out for another video, and I'll see you in another one very soon, I hope. Bye, guys.